For the past year, we have been talking about race, racism, and racial reconciliation. Some people are of the school of thought that the word race is an unbiblical word, that it is a man-made word, that we should not even seek to ascribe or identify ourselves as being part of. We're also hearing about critical race theory and this doctrine to go forth in schools to teach people about systemic racism. And many people would say systemic racism exists, and there are others that would say it does not exist. And then there are those who are champions of racial reconciliation. They believe that the races need to come together and mend fences and heal wounds and heal brokenness and acknowledge pain and achieve something that I would say we probably have not ever achieved in the history of all humanity. And that is sameness and oneness across ethnic lines. And many would desire for us to get there. I would say I too would be of that tribe. But the reality is that we are chasms apart, dependent upon our socioeconomic status or where we may have grown up, our gender, or very much even your ethnicity or your race. How you see the world is drastically different based upon those very simple factors alone. And I am someone that firmly believes that, yeah, systemic racism is a real thing. There are institutionalized practices of discrimination against certain people groups and certain genders. That's why we have laws that have brought us to a place of equilibrium in certain areas. But we recognize that as human beings, we have biases. Some of them are inherent biases. Some of them are unconscious biases, but we all have them. You step into a room and unconsciously you look at a person and you size them up. You size up where they might be from. You size up where they may live. You size up where their family makeup might come from. And then we ask those questions. Who are you? Where did you grow up? What did your parents do? Where did you go to school? Where do you work? And all of those things bring us to this place of making inferences and judgments about people, constantly evaluating in our mind, is what we thought true before we even asked the question? Or could it be that these minds can't always be relied upon? How do we identify the isms that are within us? That is the critical question that we must all be asking of ourselves if we want to ever get to a place of being reconcilers and those who are carrying, as believers, the ministry of reconciliation. It's like the sin or the plank that you have to take out of your own eye, recognizing that before you cast stones upon others, that could it be I carry some things within me that inherently cause me to be a part of what I don't want to be a part of. And that is a place of racial brokenness. So as we seek to explore what reconciliation could really mean and what it could look like, I want to challenge you, as I daily feel God challenging me, to understand the isms that are in our lives, the schisms that are in our lives that cause us to be arm's length distance apart from people who are ever so close. I believe that it is the challenge of God to want to remove all of those barriers, but we have to be courageous to pursue the places that God is calling us to do and understand that it will mean that what your grandmother always said was not true. And it might mean that what your teacher said was wrong. And it would mean that maybe what your mother or your father told you around the dinner table was just flat out wrong and came from a place of pain. Are you willing to go there? Are you willing to see yourself as other people see you? Are you willing to uncover the isms in your own life that you could first embody reconciliation with the Father, that you don't know all things, and that everything that you think is not right, but that we would bind our minds to the mind of Christ and bind our will to the will of God and understand, as Ephesians 6 tells us, that we don't fight against flesh and blood, but our fight is against principalities and powers, spiritual wickedness in high places, rulers of darkness. So that means that racism is a power, but racial reconciliation is too a power. Let's use that power of reconciliation to thwart every other power that the enemy himself would seek to use to divide us. I invite you today, as I very well challenge myself daily, understand the isms in your life.